This is you have everybody with their arms around each other.
I know exactly.
No, this is going to be a line.
Come on.
Those kind of movies are online.
The internet is
Can you introduce yourself so we can tell them?
Yeah, this is Mitch Watson.
Glen Murakami.
You'll know my voice. It's much more deeper and pronounced than Glenn's.
Very round.
More trained.
Round.
More trained.
Yeah, I draw funny pictures.
So we're kind of on the end of the cycle for you guys. So
Yeah.
is there anything you haven't been asked yet?
I mean, go ahead and ask.
Yeah. We'll just keep repeating the same stuff over and over again, but make it sound like it's fresh.
So really, I think what we've seen from Beware the Batman so far are just a couple of those images, and it certainly looks like it's certainly a departure from Brave and the Bold. Can you tell us a little bit about the direction that you want to take the show into?
Visually or story-wise?
Story-wise.
Yeah, I mean, there's three main differences to the show.
I'll do the visual. You do
the visual? Okay,
I'll do the other one.
I'll do the other one, and then Glenn will take care of the visual one. I mean, so the first thing is we decided with the Batman character and the Batman universe to go backward into its origins, which is when he was more of a detective, a real detective. So the show is pretty much a procedural on one level, because yes, he has the Batmobile, he has the suit, and he has the gear and all that stuff, but he's also at his core a guy looking at the clues and solving mysteries, and he has this incredible brain and this ability to do that. So that's one big change that we did. The other bigger change, the second one, is the fact that there's no villains that you've seen before, animated. There will be no Joker, no Penguin, no Riddler, none of those guys. It's all the villains are taken from either past or present comic books, and some of them are pulled whole cloth, and some of them are completely revised. And we just really kept the name. And DC's been right on board and consulted, and they've been great with the whole thing, and they've been really excited because we're taking characters, some of which who never have really gotten to shine, and we're only using maybe a couple of comic books, and really give them a story and pull them into this world. And then the third difference, or third thing,
visually in CG, that's been the biggest thing visually. I mean, that we're doing with the character that hasn't been done before. And I still want it to be very stylized. I don't want it to just look like, photorealistic.
Yeah, cutscenes from a video game.
Yeah, but we have to kind of build everything. We have to build the city, we have to build everything, and then we kind of film it. I mean, that's the thing, that the process is different. With 2D, we had kind of more control. You could just draw exactly what you want to see. Now with CG, you have to build it and then film it and then light it. And there are things that you couldn't do like a few years ago that we're able to do now and get results that I think are pretty amazing. I mean, just the lighting alone, I think, is going to add a kind of a level of realism, or give it a cinematic quality. Then
I mean, in CG you can move the camera in completely different ways, and do stuff. In 2D you're limited to how many fields sometimes you can push in and that kind of thing. In CG you're not. I mean, you can stick a camera in the sky and have it come plummeting straight down into the city and zoom through the subway systems and up. And the way these guys have constructed the city itself, I mean, they're still building it. They're building Gotham City. It's not just a couple of sets. It's a city.
To make things work.
Yeah.
I mean, batarangs when they flip open. I mean, we can cheat it, but things are working.
Yeah, when they did Glen redesigned the Batman's utility belt, and to make it work, to figure it out, Glen, he and his team literally built it out of cardboard, and we're walking around the offices with it on, going, I don't know, we need to be able to pull this thing off and stuff like that. And but because of that, you guys were able to actually, then recreate it in CG, and it works. Because it's a new version of the belt. It functions in a different way, and it worked. I mean, if you really built it, it would work. So. Sort of.
But pretty close.
He's going to lose the charm of Batman reaching into pulling out his bat bulletproof shield that's 8 times bigger than the belt and stuff like that.
We're still doing that. I mean, you know, I'm not saying we're
bat snuggie.
I mean, they cheat things in movies all the time, but I think, you know, it's going to add something that you've never seen before.
We're not, but I mean, in terms of the silly things, and DC's been, they will get on us whenever we've done something in the show where they're like, that feels a little convenient, you know. So we go back and rejigger it. So it's, you know, we're trying to approach it from in that aspect as realistic as possible. I mean, the Batman, Alfred, Katana, those guys are played much more realistic than say the villains. The villains is where we really allow ourselves to sort of go over the top. So
well, one of the things we talked about is, you know, it's a guy swinging with a cape over the city, but he doesn't have any superpowers. So it needed to be realistic enough that you felt like, well, if he falls, he can get hurt. So that's kind of where it's a little bit more realistic looking or more detail oriented than, say, Green Lantern. You know, so it's important to make Batman feel believable. I mean,
he gets hurt. I mean, we have him get hurt. He's not impervious. You know, he's not. He gets his butt kicked. Well, he gets hurt. There's several episodes where he really gets damaged.
But you have to believe that. I mean, the Batmobile coming around the corner, if it doesn't have a certain amount of weight to it, it won't feel like a car. So I think maybe those are some of the challenges that we're dealing with that, say, Green Lantern didn't have to deal with. But I think the kinds of stories we're doing, he's chasing people around the city in that environment. All of that stuff has to feel believable.
And none of this, I mean, I don't think we're doing the stories don't revolve around somebody robbing a bank or, you know, blowing a hole in a jewelry store or something like that. It's usually all of them, because we have these new villains to play with. All of them have their different things. They're what these particular, like what do Pig and Toad want as characters, and this is what they're trying to achieve. And what is psychologically what's going on with Magpie that makes her do what she does and then become obsessed with Batman in the way that she does, and why has anarchy come to Gotham City to challenge Batman, those kind of things. So all of them, you know, we approached everything from that aspect of how is this going to affect Batman? What is going on with him emotionally right now, and how do the villains that he's dealing with reflect that?
It's true to what's iconically Batman. It's true to what the characters are, and I think that we've been trying to do that with some of these newer villains too. We're trying to bring out aspects of Batman, and we're trying to bring different stories than what you've seen before.
You mentioned Professor Pig and Magpie. Are there any other villains that you can tell us about?
Anarchy,
yeah. If you know, I mean, there's an Anarchy in the comic books. Although we've rejiggered him, we always refer to him now in the series as he's kind of the Moriarty to Batman's Sherlock Holmes.
We've kind of said that, you know, Batman's kind of the Black King, and Anarchy are making him the White King.
Yeah.
So it's sort of this psychological chess game.
And the way, like a Moriarty, the way he approaches any dealings with Batman is it's never the direct line. It's always there's machinations going on in the background. What other characters can we use? Cypher, which is probably a character you guys aren't that familiar with. He's way back in the Humpty Dumpty, which, you know, was the Arkham. He was in Arkham Asylum and those. Although we've given him one of the nice things is DC is like, hey, you know, we're just happy that you guys are taking these characters and really giving them a showcase. And so if you need to change them, you know, just let us know what you're going to do, and as long as we're cool with it, you can do it. I mean,
but it's funny because I think people forget we did the exact same thing on Batman the Animated. We took several versions of the character and we kind of distilled it down. And now I think people are so used to it. But at the time, people weren't real happy with some of the takes that we did with, like, say, Two-Face. Two-Face, I think before that was not black and white. You know, it was always the weird patterns and things like that. So we're just trying to do the same thing. We're trying to take these characters and distill them down into something very iconic and very clearly Batman, very pure Batman.
Yeah, I mean, like Pig and Toad is a perfect example because they're awesome characters in the Grant Morrison books, but part of it is we can't do a character that runs around, killing people and burning their faces off and turning them into zombies and stuff like that. So we altered. He looks similar to he looked the way in the comic book, although the design that Glen did is awesome. And but we made them much more like who are the villains from the 007 thing that I mentioned, Mr. Kidd. Mr. Witt and Mr. Kidd, if you remember from I think Diamonds Are Forever, those two assassins who always they kind of like hold hands and they go around.
But they're very like Holmes and Watson.
Yeah.
They're very.
Yeah, we have Udo.
Wind in the Willows.
Wind in the Willows is the other word. Whereas we like a twisted, messed up Wind in the Willows characters because they, it's a pig and it's a toad and they're in a little steampunk car and they're driving around. They use a blunderbuss and everything. They got a cannon that comes out of the thing and Pig is a very refined British man and Toad is played by a guy named Udo Kier. So he's kind of this kind of crazy German accent coming out of him. So they're awesome. They're the Sam Register who runs the studios. Their favorite characters. Loves them. Because they're just fun. That's all we have. That is?
Thank you.